Hi everyone, and welcome back to this next Blender Game Engine tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how we can make another scene, which will be another level, and how we can set up material collisions and get to that level. Then once we set that up, we'll make a clickable button that can then let the player restart. Alright, so let's get started. What I've done is I've made a hazard object. It's a torus over here that's in red. And I've added in an always sensor down here, and I've added in a simple motion actuator, and I have the torus with some rotation on the z-axis. So when I press play, it's just gently rotating. And I could scale that up and make it bigger so that my character actually has to try to jump through it safely. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a collision, our first collision in the Blender game engine. So I'm going to select my character. That's real important. I'm going to go add sensor and collision, and then I'm going to come over here to the actuators and I'm going to add a scene actuator. So under the collision sensor, there are two ways to do a collision sensor. There's a property collision detection, and then there's one called a material detection. We're going to do material. It's a little easier to set up, and we'll get to properties later on in the year. So I'm going to click on this little M/P, and now it says material. Now I can click and choose, and because I named my materials properly, there's the hazard. So when it hits the hazard, or collides with the hazard, it's going to do something. So right now, by default, the scene actuator says it's going to restart. So I can press play, I can go, and when they collide, you'll see that the game restarts. So that's restart, but what I want to do is I want to actually be able to jump to other levels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a you lose screen. So scenes in Blender are similar to scenes in Stencil that we've done. And so right up here in the top center, you're going to see a little drop-down menu, and this is where you see all the different scenes. By default, your first scene is just called scene. So I came up here and I typed in level 1. What I want to do now is I want to click on the little add button, and I can add just a complete blank new scene. I can copy some of the settings. I can link objects, so that way if I make a change on one level, those changes ripple throughout the other levels. Or I could choose a full independent copy. And we'll get to all of these a little bit later on. But for now, for the class, let's choose new. When you start off with a brand new scene, you get nothing but the grid. You also notice that we're switched back to Blender render, so you actually have to change back to the Blender game engine. So you have to change this to the Blender game engine, and then over here on the far right, come to the render panel, which is the little camera, and then come down here to shading and choose GLSL, and that gives you all of your different visual options. All right, now I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to add in a camera. The camera comes in at a diagonal angle. And so I'm going to reset that by pressing Option R. And now then I'll lift the camera up on the Z-axis. Okay, I'm going to press numpad 0 and get into camera view. I'm now going to add in some text. So I'm going to do Shift A, add in some text, and I'm going to press G and grab it. So I'm going to press Tab to get into edit mode, and text is a very special object. I'm going to go ahead and just do game over. And go back to object mode. I'll scale down the text so it can fit, and I'll place it right about there. I'm going to go to materials, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a game. I'm going to create a material here called lose text. So I've got the material called lose text, but why am I not seeing, this is blue text, why am I not seeing blue here? The reason why is because under my render panel, I told this to do GLSL. In addition to that, when I press the letter Z, I also told Blender that I want to view this space with the texture display settings. And because of that, now lighting matters, and lighting matters for that text object. And I don't have a light in my scene. So if I go ahead and I do Shift A and I add in a lamp, point lamp, you'll now see that if I lift this up above the grid, you'll now see that I've got my text showing. So it kind of depends whether you want flat color or you want shaded color. So I'm going to go with shaded color. I'm going to take the text and I'm going to go to the font panel. That's the text panel right here. And I'm going to go down here to where it says geometry. And I'm going to change the extrude to, I'm going to change it to 0.1. And when I do that, now I get a nice 3D extruded text. And you can kind of see it a little bit. So that's kind of nice. And the light does matter, so maybe I'll center it a little bit more. And there we go. Okay, now when I press play, you'll notice that the font changes and it goes white. Why is that? Well, this text object is still a text object. It needs to be converted to a mesh. So the way you do that is you select it and then you press Option C. And when you choose Convert To, you choose the bottom option, which says Mesh from Curve, Meta, Surf, or Text. And I'm going to choose that. Now when I press play, now you'll see it actually comes in just fine. I'm going to go ahead now and make a little clickable button. So I'm just going to do quick Shift A, add in a cube, go ahead and get into edit mode, scale it on the x-axis. It's a pretty good sized cube, so I'll scale it on the z-axis also just to thin it out a little bit more. Something like that. Bring it up so it's in line with the game over. Okay, so that's pretty good, I think. Okay, so I'll get back to object mode. I'll go ahead and give it a new material. I'll give it that material there. So I already made these materials before I did the recording, so that's why they're already pre-made. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in my restart text. So I'll do text, drag it up on the z-axis so it's in front, edit mode. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and scale this down, grab it, and there we go. And I'll give it a material. Okay, and this is a material that I already had. I'll make it a little bit brighter so it's easier to see, hopefully. Okay, and I'll go ahead and maybe move my lamp around a little bit. Okay, so now I need to convert this text, otherwise when I press play, it's going to do that. I'm also going to make it three-dimensional before I do it, so I'll go back to the font panel, go to extrude, make it extruded, and now I'll actually rest it inside the panel. Okay, so now I need to convert this so it shows up in the game engine. So I'm going to press Option C, I'm going to convert it. Now it shows up in game. I want to get rid of that gray background, and there's a way you could do it, but in the world settings, but I'm just going to do Add Mesh Plane. I'll just scale it on the X, scale it on the Y, and I can go ahead and just move it wherever I want. I can go ahead and give it any kind of material. Let's see, I think I'll give it that material. Okay, so we'll just make it black. Okay, so there we go. It'll be like that. The lighting isn't good, but I can see everything. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to make my clickable button be a button. So I'm going to right-click and select the text. I'm going to shift right-click and select the background, and I'm going to press Control-J, and that joins the two objects together. So now they're one. With that selected, I'm going to come over here and do Add Sensor. I'm going to add a mouse sensor, and that's going to be my left mouse button. I'll rename it. I'll call it left click. Collapse that. I'll add another mouse sensor. And so what I want them to do is I want the player to have to left mouse click, but I also want their mouse to have to physically be over the button. So I'm going to change the mouse event to mouse over. Not mouse over any. I want it to be mouse over. So I'll call this mouse over. Good. Close that up. I'm going to go ahead and add an AND controller manually, and I want both of these conditions to be satisfied. So it's left click and, from the controller, left click and mouse over. So both of these have to be satisfied before it does this scene actuator. So I'm going to wire that up, and I don't want it to restart. I want it to set the scene, and I want it to go back to level 1. Okay, so now I'm going to, I need to rename my scene. So this scene here, I'm just going to call this lose, since that's the lose screen. There we go. And I'll go back to level 1. Okay, so now when I press play and I go forward and I hit that, whoops, I need to change that. Select my character, go to my scene actuator. There we are. It should go to the set scene, and it should go to, oops, not level 1, sorry. Lose. Okay, good. So now when I do that, I press play, I go touch the hazard object, and there I am looking at game over and restart. But I didn't see my mouse pointer. So I need to see my mouse pointer. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to actually add in, on my button, I'm going to add another actuator. It's going to be a mouse actuator. I'm going to wire it up to the same controller. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say that, so this is, the name of it is mouse show. Or sorry, nope, sorry, I did that backwards. Sorry about that. I need to do this on level 1. Okay, so I'm going to select the character, and I'm going to come down here to the scene actuator. I'm going to add a mouse actuator. I'm going to wire it up, and this is going to be called mouse show. And so what's going to happen is as soon as the character collides with the torus, it's going to pass the signal through here. It's going to set the scene to the lose scene, and it's going to change the mouse mode to visible. So we're going to be able to see the mouse, and this is the mouse on or off. So for me, that's on. Okay, now when I do this, I play, see it. I can now see the mouse pointer here, and I can go ahead and click on the button, and I'm back. The problem is when I'm back in the level 1, I still see the mouse, so I have to get rid of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to select my button, and I need to add a final mouse actuator, and I'm going to call this mouse hide, and I'm going to uncheck visible. So there we are there. Okay, that is that. So now when I play, I'm playing along, I touch the hazard, I can see it here, I can restart, and then I'm back in here and I can see it, and you don't see any mouse. Okay, that's it. That was about as quick as I could do in under 12 minutes. So that's it. In the next video, I'm going to cover some basic object animation. So I hope that helps you out, and good luck and enjoy.